I'll never take that from Daryl Morey. How's everybody doing, though?
Welcome to Big Facts. It is 10:04 Eastern Time on Tuesday.
In the post.
We had some Sixers basketball. We have some Eagles news. We have some All-Star game to talk about. We have some NFL stuff to talk about. Justin, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm wonderful. I'm about, hopefully, if all goes well, like 12 days away from the birth of my fourth daughter. And, you know, it's just another day in Justin's life, man.
Another baby popping out over there.
I'll tell you what I did do though, Aaron. I bought my wife an iRobot Roomba vacuum.
You like
and,
it?
Dude, this motherfucker's the greatest thing that's ever happened to humankind.
You never have to
I open my phone and press a button, and it goes. And I named it. You have to name your Roomba for your Wi-Fi and shit. I named it Kitchen Wench just because I could.
Do your kids try to play with it?
My youngest doesn't really know what's going on with it. Luna, the crazy one that I've got, the feral child that I have, she tries to play with it, but then it's kind of loud and comes at you. Like, this thing's not afraid of running into you. It scares her a little bit. But the other two just think it's cool as shit to have a robot in the house. And
you're not a pet guy. You don't have pets, right?
Dog, I got 3 kids and a 4th one on the way. I have enough pets and kids.
So Sixers beat Toronto tonight after losing to them the other night. And the other night I watched the full game. Tonight I saw the stat line. Justin watched most of this game. And I saw in the last game, Embiid actually got off a lot of good shots. They ended up losing. I thought they could have won that game if a couple more shots of his fell. He had a lot of shots that went in and out. What was your breakdown of the game tonight? Korkmaz was in the starting lineup for late scratch, which you told me Seth Curry, and we'll talk about that. What was your breakdown of the game? What'd you like? What'd you not like?
Danny Green's got to go, bro. And I want to jump this right into. First of all, if the Philadelphia 76ers play basketball like this come the playoffs, they're not going to make it very far. It's not going to be good. Tobias Harris had 21. It was an inconsistent 21. The bench blows cocks and balls, as far as I'm concerned. The Ben Simmons was aggressive in moments. He was weak in moments. They overpassed so many fucking times. Danny Green, like, I swear to God, bro, it feels like he can't hit the ocean with a beach ball right now. I mean, I know, again, his final stat line, I think he had 4 threes in the game, but the ones he missed were worse than the ones he made. Furkan Korkmaz had 19 points as the starting 2 tonight. Furkan's not a starting 2 in this league. Furkan's not a 19. He's not a 19 points per game guy on any team anywhere. That's not who that guy is. But Embiid had a rough game, but Toronto still doubled him, and they still played defense against him because you know that Embiid's 2 sank shots away from catching fire and putting up 40.
Right.
Korkmaz benefited off of that because Korkmaz is a true catch-and-shoot shooter. It's all he knows how to do is catch and shoot. That was a benefit. You need scoring on this team, bro. So I want to bring up real fast. Yeah. I want to get right into it. Mike Scott, Danny Green, Tyrese Maxey, and a first-round draft pick. I don't give a fuck, 21, 23, 25 pick a year. It's going to be 26 to 30. Who cares? For Kyle Lowry right now, sign me up. Take it, move on. Bring me Kyle Lowry. It's not. It really isn't. It's only a lot because Tyrese Maxey's upside looks like it could be so high.
It's a lot because of Kyle Lowry's age. But if you think you can win a championship this year.
And all I need Kyle Lowry to be for me, bro, is a secondary ball handler on the first unit and a guy to get the bench rolling. That's what I need you to be. You're going to play 25 to 28 minutes a game. You're going to get more than what you're getting in Toronto. You'll be able to have ISO scoring options, which is what your game is. But he will open up the spacing, and he's a guy you can bring that can play with Ben. Like, you need that guy.
So the biggest problem with the Sixers seems like it's the inconsistency with the 2 guys you have in your starting lineup that for the past couple years have only started in bits and pieces, and they've only started in bits and pieces because they're just not that good. Seth Curry was I believe a bench player, might have cracked the starting rotation sometimes with the Mavs, but was a bench player with the Mavs coming off the bench shooting threes. Danny Green was also the same with the Lakers. He was inserted into the starting lineup sometime, but realistically is a bench player in this league. So you have two guys that are bench players that have actually at this point in their career are kind of a defensive liability. We think of Danny Green as a 3-and-D guy because of what he's been most of his career.
Well, he was, bro, but he's 36 years old now.
And right now, he's just too slow to be that 3-and-D guy.
Dude, he has the same level of athleticism as Tom Brady does right
his
now.
lateral quickness is awful.
Dude, listen, I'm not fucking with you. Tom Brady is as good a defender in the NBA right now as Danny Green. That's how far his athleticism has fallen. I'm not saying Danny Green ain't got 3 chips. I'm not saying Danny Green didn't do things to earn those 3 chips. But if Danny Green is anything more than a 7 to 8 minute off the bench guy that's probably not going to play for you in the playoffs, he's too much on your team. He's 36 years old.
If those two guys aren't hitting threes, it's pointless for them to be in your starting lineup. Korkmaz isn't going to be much better because he kind of gives you the same thing. He's kind of a defensive liability and gets streaky from 3. So if you bring in Kyle Lowry has to be the guy that, aside from the fast break, is the point guard in the half-court offense. So in the half-court offense, Ben moves to the 4. Kyle Lowry's running the point. You have a little more space because Kyle Lowry can shoot threes.
Correct.
What does that take away, though, from Ben Simmons in the half-court? I know he's not great to begin with.
It doesn't, because what happens is Ben Simmons will be forced into playing the 4. Ben Simmons is 6'11", fucking 260 pounds, right, bro? Ben Simmons needs to be forced to show himself that he can bang with a 5 and go up and get his like Joe does. And
he can bang with any 4.
And imagine this. Kyle Lowry's not Russell Westbrook, right? He's never going to average 10 assists a game. He's not James Harden. He's not Ben Simmons. But Kyle Lowry's as good a passer as Damian Lillard is. They're primary scorers, yes, but they can dish the ball, bro. Having Kyle Lowry be the guy to get the ball to Ben in position at the 4 is going to be gigantic for him. All you need is the reason to do it. Ty Maxey is not good enough. Shake Milton has not shown you enough to be your starting 1. That's not what you can do. You bring Kyle Lowry in here, who's got a championship, who's a legitimate. I mean, Kyle Lowry's a great point guard, bro.
He's very underrated. He's very underrated.
I'm telling you right now, bro, there's no doubt in my mind, your chances of beating Brooklyn are incredibly better if you find a way to get Kyle Lowry while holding on to your bigger pieces in Toby and Ben. You can't give up one of those guys. And I think these people who are talking about Ben for Kyle Lowry and a couple of 1s from Toronto, you're out your fucking mind. You do not trade Ben Simmons for 34-year-old Kyle Lowry. You don't do it.
Yeah, I'm not like the highest person on Ben Simmons. I like the way he plays. I love his defense, but he at this point in his career, he's better than Kyle Lowry is going to be at any point in his career.
That's a great point, Jacob. Yo, Lowry does get in Kyrie's head. That's a fucking great point. And when you're playing a team, the Sixers clearly, Daryl Morey built this team to be a matchup nightmare for other teams. That's how he built this roster. It wasn't his normal Daryl Morey, everybody shoots. He really did mold to what was available here. And Kyle Lowry is a matchup against Kyrie. I fucking agree with that point 100%. I think that gives you a gigantic edge in the playoffs.
So you said something funny to me, and you said Ben Simmons is 6'11", 200 next pounds. It seemed like, and I was thinking about this the last 3 games I've watched because he's been so aggressive. Remember when I told you a couple weeks ago, if I was Sam Cassell, the only thing I would be doing all game is screaming onto the court, "Hey, Ben, you're 6'11". And it seemed like the last 3 games, 4 games, however long, that's what was going on with Ben Simmons. He's like, holy shit, I'm 6'11". It's like he doesn't even know he's 6'11". Right. He starts going to the rim, and it's extremely impressive because even if you know he can't shoot, he gets a running head start now because you're playing so far off him, and B clears out space for him, and he can finish on anybody.
And he has a fucking elite kick-out pass. Elite. Yeah. And if you can bring in the right combination, whether it's a Kyle Lowry, whether you can pull off Zach Levine or Bradley Beal, whatever it is, if you bring in a real guy that can hit a shot anytime it's put in the right place, Ben Simmons is the guy in the league right now for my money. Ben Simmons is the guy I want making the pass, right? Like if I have to pass down into the hole and win a game on a layup, I want Joel Embiid. If I need a guy to make the pass, I want Ben Simmons. That's the guy I want.
It's Simmons, LeBron, Harden. The list might end.
And Jokic.
Yeah, but Jokic isn't the guy that's taking it from the top of the key into the paint.
I don't disagree with you, but he's the guy that knows how to make the right pass, and he can make passes 99% of the guys in his position can't.
Speaking of guys who can make passes, all-stars were announced, the starters, the reserves today. I like most of it. I have a problem with some of it. So Eastern Conference starters, I think they got the starters right for the most part. I would switch Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Giannis, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving were named the starters.
Fair.
For the West, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, Luka Doncic. I think we'd all argue that Dame should have been the starter, but Luka, you can make an argument Luka deserves it.
Yeah.
So the reserves are always interesting because the reserves start to end up being more of a popularity contest than the starters. I think people recognize the starters, the fans recognize them, the coaches recognize them. It's usually done pretty well. But the reserves are interesting. The reserves for the Western Conference, Dame Lillard, you could have swapped either one, sure. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Paul George, Anthony Davis, who hasn't played in a little bit, Chris Paul, Zion Williamson.
Paul George doesn't belong.
He belongs.
I don't agree. I don't think Paul George is having an all-star season. I just don't agree.
The biggest snub as far as NBA players are concerned, how do you leave out Devin Booker?
Well, I think the reason why you leave out Devin Booker is because we have – so look at LeBron James, right? When LeBron went to Cleveland and brought them almost instantaneously to a finals appearance, that was starting to set this tone now that when you are an elite-level player, you are to bring your team farther than they've ever gone. Devin Booker couldn't get a winning season in Phoenix. Chris Paul shows up, and now Phoenix has beaten the Nets, has beaten the Sixers, has beaten the Lakers. The Nets are a real fucking team. Or the Suns are a real team, bro. They have, if they hold on to Mikal Bridges or get some kind of a fucking king's ransom for him because a team like Philadelphia needs them, that team is going to be a fucking problem, especially if LA doesn't have Anthony Davis. I don't give a fuck about DeMarcus Cousins. He is not Anthony Davis, guys. This isn't 6 years ago fucking Sacramento Kings DeMarcus Cousins. This isn't Boogie. This is 7 injuries, can barely stand up straight DeMarcus Cousins.
He's slow.
It's not Anthony Davis, guys. That Phoenix team, in my opinion, is probably the second best team in the West right now.
I would agree. I think as far as playoff matchups are concerned, it doesn't really matter whether they finish anywhere from 2 to 4. I think they're a bad matchup for most teams 1 through 3.
And Chris Paul, bro, I got to say this before you move on to your next point. Chris Paul's fucking in his mid-30s, bro. Chris Paul is where – I think Chris Paul and Danny Green were drafted the same year. Chris Paul is fucking unbelievable.
When you talk about
LeBron, right? LeBron's an athletic, he's an animal. He spends $1 million a year on his body. He's 6'8". It's different. Chris Paul is playing like Tom fucking Brady does at 40. It's unreal, dude.
His value is better than even he is as a basketball player, and he's a great basketball player. But his value exceeds his talent, and you saw it in OKC. You saw it in Houston when they lost the series when he went out, and now you're seeing it in Phoenix. I have to defend Devin Booker a little bit though, because you have to remember he couldn't necessarily carry them in almost the same way Bradley Beal is not going to be able to carry a really bad Wizards roster.
Yeah, but wait a minute, bro. Bradley Beal averages 35.
I understand.
Devin Booker's not that same guy. Let me ask you this question. Who's a better player, Devin Booker or Zach Levine right now?
I would say it's a hard one.
It's a hard one. So first of all, the hard part is you're really looking at 2 different positions. I know that Levine gets talked about as a 2 guard. He's a 3. Zach Levine's a 3, right? And Devin Booker is a pure 2. He is a 2 guard, a shooting guard.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare because the 3 is obviously going to give you a little bit better defense. He's going to play the position that he plays different. So Devin Booker has less of a complete game because he's needed less of a complete game. But for me, bro, if you were asking me which one do I pick, Zach LaVine's the better basketball player for every reason. I trust the shot from Zach LaVine more than Devin Booker. Not to say Devin Booker's not slept on. I agree with you. Devin Booker does not get the respect that he should. He is underrated. But I don't think it was a snub. Like, it's unsurprising to me. You know what I'm saying?
Can we clap it up for Zach LaVine, by the way, for making the All-Star reserves real quick?
For real.
Exactly. Can we clap it up?
Exactly. Let's give him one. I'll give him one.
That's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Well-deserved, by the way. Julius Randle, the Knicks are surprisingly average.
Julius Randle is a fucking animal.
They're surprisingly average. I thought they were going to be awfully
but we talked about this, bro. We both agreed that Obi Toppin was the steal of this draft. And obviously not saying that Obi Toppin is the reason why the Knicks are marginally good, but they have a team now that is going to be 4 or 5 years from now, bro, if they make the right moves and ownership spends the right money, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, there's better players than on the game. Regardless, glad Zach LaVine made an all-star team. So there's 2 guys in the East that
Do you have a problem with
easily
or that got snubbed?
Got snubbed. 2 guys.
Okay.
I can make an argument for Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. I like the way Brown's playing actually a little more than Tatum. I think Tatum's a little more clutch. Trae Young's averaging something like 25 and 9. I know the Hawks aren't winning a ton of games, but he's averaging 25 and 9. So if you're going to put Beal in there, you have to take him into consideration. The bigger snub, in my opinion, was Sabonis. The Pacers are 4th in the East. They got rid of Victor Oladipo. They couldn't bring Karis LeVert in because he had some type of cancerous, I don't know, lump somewhere or had to get he hasn't played. So they lost out on Oladipo, didn't get anything back. The guy's averaging like 22 and 12 on 50-something% shooting and didn't make an all-star team. And I thought realistically over almost any reserve, he could have made the all-star team.
All right, so let me ask you this question. So you said the 2 snubs are Jaylen Brown and Demontis Sabonis, right?
Trae Young and Sabonis.
So Trae Young and Sabonis.
But Trae Young, you can make an argument against. I don't think you can make an argument against Sabonis.
All right, so let's go. You have the reserves in front of you?
Yeah.
Let's go through the East reserves one by one.
East reserves, Jaylen Brown.
Okay. I wouldn't put Trae Young above him.
You can make an argument, but I don't think I would either. I like Jaylen Brown as a player better. I think he's more valuable. James Harden, not putting Trae Young above him.
Can't do it. Wait a minute. First of all, I do have to say this. I know why it's necessary, but it does make my balls itch that James Harden is representing the East after like a handful of games. It does make my nuts itch, but anyway, I digress. So, okay, James Harden, we agree. Trae's not better. Keep going.
By the way, James Harden, in my opinion, should be starting over Kyrie. I know Kyrie's scoring more points. Kyrie
started the season in the East. That's why.
Yeah, James Harden's way more valuable than him.
I don't disagree.
Zach LaVine, who well-deserved. I
wouldn't put Trae above him.
No, I wouldn't either. So that's your guards. I mean, if you're going to pick a guard, you have to put it. So I that's why I say I understand. Sabonis, for me, is a whole different story.
So who are the other guys? Let's finish down the list.
Julius Randle.
That one I agree with you. Now, again, Julius Randle's had an unbelievable season. I won't take it away from him.
He has, but
what Domantas Sabonis has dealt with and still been productive through, way more difficult and way more impressive.
If you have the same stat line, they almost have the same stat line, and they don't have a pure scorer on that team. They're 4th in the East. I pick Sabonis over him all day.
I'm with you. I agree.
Ben Simmons, it's hard.
Well, now hold on a minute. Skip.
It's hard.
Hold on now, Skip.
I'm not against it.
Hold on 1 second. I could, given enough time and enough research, I could argue that Trae Young deserves to be in over Ben Simmons. Because if I'm looking at James Harden as my backup point, my reserve point, Ben Simmons is a point guard. I know that he can be a 4, but he's not one. So I could argue that Trae Young could have gotten in over Ben. I understand why they didn't.
But then Ben has to take a place of either Jaylen Brown or James Harden, and I wouldn't put him over them.
I couldn't.
And then you have Nikola Vukovic, the Orlando center, Vukovic.
Vucevic. I definitely put Sabonis in over Vucevic. I mean, that's not even a fucking thought to me.
He's having a great season.
He's had great seasons, bro. This is like if I'm going to tell Devin Booker that he couldn't win a fucking
I would put him over. I would put him over him too. I think Sabonis is just more valuable.
I can't disagree with that. I guess I don't think
Orlando's a bad team too, though, and he's done a lot, but they're just not. They're not the Pacers.
I'm sorry, bro. I know that we know how bad he was because, unfortunately for us, his career began here. But Vucevic does have Markelle Fultz. Who does Domantas Sabonis have?
Fultz is injured too, though. He's not. Yeah,
but he's played a couple, and they have Evan Fournier. They still have guys, bro. Like they've got a couple of dudes that aren't nobodies. Who the fuck is Sabonis playing with right now?
Yeah,
TJ McConnell. Like, you know what I mean?
No, he's got I think Warren's over there.
He's a forward, bro. He's not a guard.
Yeah, they got some good players, but they shouldn't be fourth in the East if he wasn't as good as he is.
Well, and TJ Warren's another one, bro. That team is not that team without TJ Warren.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think, Chris Paul needs to start getting a little bit more consideration. We're not going to talk about him as MVP because of the numbers he's putting up, but the value of Chris Paul needs to be talked about in the top 5, or we need to stop talking about point guards in general.
Well, I mean, that's the difficult part, right? Like, so I don't necessarily disagree with you that it's very easy to put Chris Paul in the top 5 of MVP voting every season of every team he's ever been on. That is, if we're going by value. The problem with MVP is you either have to be a top 2 seed in your conference or you have to have a year second to none. Like Damian Lillard, right? Yeah. For Damian Lillard to win an MVP, he would need a stat line of 39, 9, and 8 or something crazy, stupid stat line for him to ever even get close to a top 3. It's just not what they do. I mean, Giannis, again, the Bucks are the top of the conference every year. LeBron, when he wins, the times Kobe won, that's what it's a popularity contest, bro. It's not about guys with eyeballs that know the fucking sport and understand value, because anybody in the world could try to present an argument why Chris Paul's not the most valuable. And if you don't watch the game of basketball, you just don't fucking understand. If you watch Chris Paul play basketball, you understand that offense does not exist without that player on that floor. Yeah. But like LeBron does, bro. There's certain guys.
They got some good players. They just couldn't make it go.
Yeah.
They just couldn't make it go. So let's talk about let's move to football for a second. We've covered basketball for a little bit. I want to ask you, I didn't talk to you about this before we got on here. So JJ Watt's taken a little bit of time to make a decision on a football team.
I don't think he's taking any time. I think he's already decided. He just doesn't want to tell us yet.
Okay. So who do you think he's going to? And why do you think he's going there?
I can see 3 places he could end up.
Yeah, me too.
I could see him ending up in Green Bay.
Yep.
I can see him ending up in New Orleans. Okay. And I can see him ending up in Tampa Bay.
Let's throw New Orleans out because they have they're like negative.
I have no concern about that. If he believes that Drew Brees is coming back and doesn't announce retirement and thinks he can win, he'll make a decision not based on money. The motherfucker's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He'll be fine. My wild card team is Washington. I just don't see his fit at his age on that defensive line. I think they have too much youth. But that's my go be the Chris Long to the Eagles, JJ Watt to the Washington football team. That's the dark horse. I think Tampa Bay is the most likely.
Makes sense. And it hasn't been. Nobody's reporting it. So everybody's reporting. I don't understand. It's Green Bay, Buffalo. There was one other team. I don't even remember what the other team is because it doesn't matter. So Green Bay makes sense, right? Because they need a defensive piece.
They have no pass rush. They have none.
Buffalo makes sense because they need a defensive piece as well, and they have a great offense. Nobody's talking about Tampa Bay, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy is has spent 10 years at the Texans organization, wants to chase a ring. Tom Brady's still playing. They just won an NFL championship. It's in Florida, so it's warm all year long.
They just crushed the Chiefs in the championship.
And he doesn't have to play 100% of the snaps because there's a couple other DNs there that are really fucking good.
Yeah, dude, could you imagine a team where Jason Pierre-Paul or J.J. Watt, no matter what you do, no matter how long the game goes on, no matter what you run, every play, one of those guys is coming from that side.
So who's the guy? I forget. I'm having a brain fart on the other side of JPP.
I don't fucking remember.
He's actually better. He's better than JPP.
Of course he is. Well, that's why JPP would get the platoon play. But this is, I believe if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers change nothing, I believe right now they are going to repeat as champions. Tom Brady will be the only quarterback in living memory that won back-to-back titles twice. That is going to be who he is. That there's no doubt in my mind. If they add J.J. Watt, that's just fucking unfair. Like there should be a rule against it.
They have Shaq Barrett, they have Dominican Sue, and they have Vita Vea. And then they're going to add J.J. Watt. I think it's a no-brainer.
They have J.J. Watt, bro. This is the best part. J.J. Watt can play inside and outside.
Right.
J.J. Watt is such a physically freakish athlete.
Right.
He can play D tackle, D end, or outside linebacker. He's a freak.
If you want to run the ball, you have to double J.J. Watt.
Correct.
Right. So
it's unbelievable. I do believe when I look at it sensically, I think for both parties, I think Tampa Bay makes the most sense. It gets you a little bit more gas out of JPP's career, gets you a little bit more out of Ndamukong Suh. He's a guy that you can plug in at any position. If he wants to play 3 downs, he can, because you can rest different guys at different times, and he can just plug and play seamlessly. I think Green Bay also makes sense because Aaron Rodgers story of chasing the ghost of Brett Favre. If Aaron Rodgers does not win another Super Bowl in Green Bay, he's Brett Favre Jr. And I don't know many people in the world that would be happy with being called Brett Favre Jr.
Also, J.J. Watt is from Wisconsin, so that is.
Bro, do you think in 2021, do you think that really plays a role? Like LeBron went to LA for outside business ventures, right? Like location mattered.
Yeah.
But do you really think guys chase where they grew up?
No, if you're trying to get away because you're 18, 20, 22, 25. When you've played 10 years at a bad organization, family starts to become a little bit more important. I can see why it might matter. But in the grand scheme,
what are the chances that J.J. Watt didn't relocate 90% of his family to Houston?
Yeah, no, I think when you have that much money and you've been away from home for that long, it doesn't matter quite as much. At the same time, sometimes it just feels good being at home. So
I guess so, dude.
It depends what his roots feel like. I'm not a big I gotta go home. I hate going up to Jersey, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, so we were just talking about this at work the other day. New Jersey is the armpit of the United States of America.
You all know that.
And Florida is the crotch. That is the anatomy of the United States of America.
We all know that. Let's take a quick break. We'll talk about some football news, some Carson Wentz rumors, some pro football rumors, and continue with our conversation about the Eagles with where they should go in the draft at pick number 6. Jamar Chase liked a tweet from the Eagles on Twitter the other day. We'll talk about that. We'll be right back.
All right, bro.
All right, waiting for Justin to get back here, and we're going to talk about a couple mock drafts that we've looked at. Obviously, concerning the Eagles, I don't take much into CBS Sports because they put together some bullshit stuff. Justin is coming back right now, and we'll talk about this. Jacob, I agree with you. Sabonis got robbed. That's the one guy that I think could have probably started over any starter or any reserve on the East. Justin switching out for his comfy chair. He got the comfy leather chair. You got the comfy leather chair?
I had to.
Look at you, my guy.
I had to do it.
So listen to this. These are pretty good, by the way.
What is it?
Double Dog, double IPA.
Okay.
Pretty good. Okay. So CBS Sports puts out a mock draft. I don't like CBS Sports mock draft. It's usually terrible. So I go into types of websites that I think kind of have it a little bit more together. So latest mock draft I'm looking at, Just, I think you'd agree that this is probably how it's going to go. So the Eagles news, by the way, is everywhere. Trey Lance is in some of them. Kyle Pitts is in some of them. Justin Fields is in some of them. Devonta Smith's in some of them. Jamar Chase is in some of them. It's all over the place.
Fucking tight end, I swear to God.
So the most realistic one that I've seen, in my opinion, we already know number one pick is going to be Trevor Lawrence. We know number two more than likely going to be Zach Wilson. From 3 on, it gets a little different. We think Miami's going to take the offensive tackle Sewell from Oregon. Atlanta's probably going to take Justin Fields at 4. And then it starts to become a little bit of a toss-up. If they pass on Sewell, Cincinnati's going to take an O-lineman, so on and so forth. But
yeah, I gotta tell you. Hold on one second. Based on the mock draft you're talking about now, in just my uneducated opinion, there's no fucking way that Miami doesn't take Devonta Smith. There's no way.
You don't think so?
No fucking chance. No chance. If you don't get Desean Watson, you need to get every fucking weapon that you possibly can for Tua. And Tua's arm is not bad. I mean, he's a lefty. He's got a cannon like most lefties do. Not as accurate as you'd like it to be, but Michael Vick took some years to get there. If you're going to invest in him, you got to get that player. I believe Devonta Smith goes at 3, and at 5, Cincinnati takes the tackle.
So you think they're just going to, whether it's Devontae or Chase, they're going to take a wide receiver?
I don't think it's Jamar Chase. I don't believe that
he's number 2 on a lot. He's number 2 prospect, not wide receiver, prospect on a lot of people's boards.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying that if Zach Wilson doesn't have the rocket up the boards that he's had the last couple of weeks, which guys, everybody, hold on. Let me get the old school mic. Everybody, make sure you listen. This is Mitchell Trubisky, guys. I don't know if anybody knows this yet. I'm going to give you a secret. If you go back to Mitchell Trubisky's draft and you look at all of the scout grades and all of their comments, they're the exact same. Exact same. I'm just letting you know. But anyway, so if Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson aren't at the top of the draft, Jamar Chase is probably a top 3 pick.
Well, so this is interesting, though, because the next couple picks, regardless of how that plays out, they have Cincinnati taking Jamar Chase, which doesn't make any sense to me because even if A.J. Green leaves, which he's going to leave, they still have 2 really good wide receivers in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They have Joe Mixon in the backfield. It doesn't make any sense for them really to take a wide receiver, right?
And Tyler Boyd showed you last year that he's your wide receiver
number
one.
1. Yeah, he's the number 1. The next pick, they have the Eagles trading back with Carolina, and Carolina taking Trey Lance, which I can buy, but I'm not sure how the trade actually works out. And then when it gets down to the Eagles pick, they have, first of all, Devonta Smith still being available, and the Eagles taking Devonta Smith. Now,
at what number?
Perfect world, at 8. In a perfect world, if I can trade down 2 spots and get Devonta Smith, I think I'd do it. But do you think Carolina
who drafts at 7?
7 is the Detroit Lions. They have them taking a defensive end from Georgia.
Why would Carolina jump Detroit to get Trey Lance, not Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or a guy that makes sense to jump for if he falls? Why the fuck would they jump for Carson Wentz's hopeful, better replacement?
The Eagles would have to sell that if they don't trade up. They're not very high on them, but they're going to take him at 6, but they'll drop back to take a wide receiver. I think that's the only scenario.
In this world, you're telling me at 6 that Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase, and Justin Fields are all on the board still?
No. Jamar Chase and Justin Fields are gone.
Okay. So
Jamar Chase goes to Cincy. Now, that's not going to happen. I don't know why that's
no, there's
there.
No shot.
I think Jamar Chase is still there.
Yeah, let's say that Jamar Chase is still there. Let's
say Detroit takes Jamar Chase instead of.
There's no fucking way that Detroit is drafting Trey Lance, and there's no shot in hell.
Yeah.
No, not Carolina. Detroit drafts at 7. So for Carolina to want to move up, they have to beat out Detroit. There's no scare there. Philadelphia is not drafting Trey Lance, dude. There's no. It's not Justin Fields. They're not taking a quarterback. They can't.
Yeah, they're not in a leverage position.
No,
they don't have
way,
any.
bro.
They don't have any leverage at 6. You have leverage at 4.
Howie Roseman has shown you. Now, well, that's not true. You don't have any leverage. You have leverage to the teams picking 10, 12, 14. You don't have leverage to 8.
Well, there's going to be at least one really good quarterback left at that spot. It's whether it's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or whether the kid from BYU drops and doesn't get picked second and he starts dropping down the board for whatever reason. There's going to be a quarterback.
What if one of these teams falls in love with Mac Jones and they want to get from 15, 16 into the top 10 and you can acquire
that high? Yeah, if they think he's going to go that high.
Well, I don't think that bro, listen, I'm not, please, for the love of God, nobody crucify me for what I'm about to say. I'm not comparing talent. When Andy Reid traded up to draft Patrick Mahomes, everybody was confused why he could have gotten them where they were. Now we see. I'm not saying that's Mac Jones by any means.
You go get your
Mac
guy.
Jones. Yeah, Mac Jones is a fucking 1987 statue in the pocket quarterback. He is not Patrick Mahomes. But if a team believes that their build is Mac Jones's strength, then you're going to go up and get that guy. But again, this is my thing, bro. How are you better off? If Howie Roseman is going to be handling these depth picks, right? Let's look at the depth picks of the last 10 years. Deshaun Jackson in the second round, LaShawn McCoy in the second round. That's quite literally 10 plus years ago now. The depth picks are not good from Howie. He does not make good picks in the second, third, and fourth round. So if I'm trading back to
the last decade, not even half decade, you got, I think, Jordan Hicks in the third, which you ended up fucking getting rid of him, and he ends up being the leading tackler in Arizona. You got Goddard in the second, which is a good pick, but it's not like he's the best tight end in the league, and you got some extreme value for him. He was going to go at some point in the second round to some team anyway.
Sure.
Aside from what Chip drafted with Cox and Lane Johnson, and you Doug drafted Carson Wentz, what did you really have in the second, third, fourth round that you can hang your hat on?
Nothing, and that's the point, bro. If I'm going to trade down out of 6, I'm going to get 2, 3, 4 somewhere in those rounds. That's where my depth picks are going to come. I'll get 16 and a 2 and a 4 or something. And those picks do not translate in Philadelphia. You know what translates? Jamar Chase is a fucking NFL receiver right now.
Yeah.
Patrick Surtain is an NFL cornerback right now. Micah Parsons is an NFL linebacker right now. If I'm trading down, it's because I know I'm going to get Parsons in that slot. It's the only reason to do it. Or Surtain or one of those guys. You have so many fucking holes on this team, bro. You need talent. I don't give a fuck about who the starting quarterback is.
I have a feel. I mean, it's easy to predict the Eagles not going this draft. You have so many holes. You should be going with whoever the best player is on your board.
Every single pick.
It doesn't matter what position it is, even if it's a quarterback. If you have If you happen to have
but bro, before you say shit like even if it's a quarterback, Trey Lance is not an improvement to this football team.
I understand.
And he's not, I don't give a fuck what happens. At number 6, there will be at least 5 guys better than Trey Lance. They might be offensive tackles, they might be defensive linemen, but the linemen, they're better. They're better than Trey Lance. So you can go wrong by drafting a quarterback.
Based on what we know from last year's scouting reports, the Eagles at their position in the draft had Justin Jefferson at 1 and Jeremy Chin at 2. Both those guys were either Jeremy Chin ended up being defensive rookie of the year, and Justin Jefferson was runner-up. So you have to listen to your scouts this year first off. So if your scouts tell you, based on what I know they told you last year, that Trey Lance is going to be, I don't know, Russell Wilson.
No, stop. It can't be.
You have to listen to your scouts, don't you?
No, not in this situation. Not with Howie Roseman still having an office at the NovaCare complex. You cannot allow what just took place to take place again. Now, you and me talked about this on the phone the other day. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is as mentally weak as Carson Wentz. I don't think that Jalen is going to fold like fucking paper mache like Carson did. But if you draft a quarterback at 6 that's not the clear, obvious Justin Fields fell, Zach Wilson fell. And again, I hate Zach Wilson, but everybody's saying that he's the
if he falls to 6, you take him.
Right. Those are no-brainers. If it's Trey Lance or Mac Jones, you can't do that. You have to pick a player that will make an impact on this team. If you draft Trey Lance, is he going to actually compete with Jalen Hurts to be the starter of this team? No way. He's not ready for NFL football.
He's 3 years.
Exactly. He's Daniel Jones, bro. And listen, right now, and again, you can disagree with me if you want to. I don't think you will. This isn't fucking homerism. This is just the truth. Right now, the hierarchy of quarterbacks in the NFC East in order are Dakota Prescott in Dallas, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, Daniel Jones in New York, and Taylor Heineke in Washington. That is the hierarchy right now. You have the second best quarterback in the division.
And the problem is, as much as Daniel Jones turns the ball over and as much as he fumbles the football, we haven't seen enough from Jalen Hurts to know that he's not going to fumble the football that much, because in the 4 games he's played, I think he's fumbled 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts is very clearly an elite level athlete, and he does have an elite IQ. I know there were some questions about him reading defenses, and he definitely showed some nerves in those first 4 games. But first of all, bro, Green Bay, New Orleans, and then trying to play your team into the playoffs in your first 4 games, that was a lot of fucking pressure. I'm not surprised he didn't take over the world. I believe Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback in this league. I don't think that he's great. Could he be? Absolutely. I think Jalen Hurts' ceiling is probably Russell Wilson. Will he ever accomplish it? I don't know that.
Yeah,
but I know that right now, I have a better chance at competing, which is what they're still saying they're doing, with Jalen Hurts rather than Mac Jones or Trey Lance. It's the wrong pick. It's just wrong.
Let me ask you this. If there's one position that the Eagles could draft for in the first round that you think would make the biggest difference in the season, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the best quarterbacks on a bad team make a difference of 1 or 2 games, right? They will win you 2 games above what your team is.
Jamar Chase gives you 2, I believe. I think I know Devonta Smith won the Heisman, and he's going to be a great receiver. I don't want to take away from Devonta Smith. Jamar Chase's game, much like Justin Jefferson's, is just a different level of game. Jamar Chase is just a different guy. Jamar Chase, I think, gives you 2. I think you're a 6-win team with Jamar Chase as the roster stands. But I also believe if you trade backwards, let's say that you end up in that 9 to 12 range, and you end up with a Patrick Surtain or a Micah Parsons to be a quarterback on that defense, and you fill out the roster with the rest of the picks, I think you add 2 wins. I think if you do this right, whether you use your pick or you acquire something more and pick a different fit, I think there's probably 4 or 5 guys that are not only in reach for the Eagles at either spot, trading back or staying put, that really could make a 2-win difference.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with that. I think 1.5 wins is like the break-even point. So PFF, who I'm real big on PFF.
I know you are. They're your favorite source.
They really hone in on stats. They really hone in on game-changing plays. They evaluate who you're going against, the matchup. So here's their rankings as far as the draft goes. Trevor Lawrence is number 1. Zach Wilson's number 2. Justin Fields number 3. 3 quarterbacks, top 3.
And only 2 teams that need him.
Then it goes Penei Sewell, who's the offensive tackle from Oregon. Yep. Jamar Chase at 5. So the first skill player is Jamar Chase. It's not close. Micah Parsons at 6. Yep. And then, interestingly enough,
don't say Trey Lance.
No, but Jaylen Waddle is actually ahead of Devonta Smith.
Well, that's only because of size, right? It's physicality. It's got to be.
They're not much different because Jaylen Waddle is 5'10", 182, and Devonta Smith 6'1", 175. Now, when you're 3 inches taller but weigh 7 pounds less, I think people would label you as fragile. But the size difference for Jaylen Waddle over Devonta Smith is not much.
But Waddle plays more physically than Smith does.
Yes, correct.
And Justin Jefferson just gave you the prototype of the new NFL wide receiver. Physical. Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, another one. CeeDee Lamb, another one.
It's not even the physicality necessarily. They're elite route runners and speed creators. So by the way,
Devonta Smith relies on his speed, bro. That's his thing.
Absolutely. So another let's pivot for a second because you brought up the Broncos, you brought up Jerry Jeudy. The latest rumor on Desean Watson is that Denver might actually have the best chance at Desean Watson.
How?
They have picks, they have players on the defensive end, they have some aging players, they have some expiring contracts. It's interesting because John Elway's been looking for a quarterback, trying to land one in the draft or in free agency for what, 4 years now?
Forever.
They haven't been able to find. And they have really good skill players on Denver, enough that if Desean Watson goes there and they have that defense and they're playing in Denver, they can compete with Kansas City a little bit, can't they?
No. Stop. No.
So?
No. Listen. I can't say absolutely not. It's not just Desean Watson, because the problem is, right, so let's just play pretend. Von Miller's a part of that package, right? No way he isn't.
Yeah, because he's that older expiring contract.
Big money, older expiring contract.
I'm still going to be there, yeah.
So your defense will be anchored by Bradley Chubb. You're going to have to give up 3 first-round draft picks, bare minimum. You're obviously not going to trade Jerry Jeudy, but who knows what young receiver you might have to throw in with it to sweeten the pot. As good as you get bringing in Desean Watson, as good as that offense gets, you're still not the offense that Kansas City presents. I don't see.
Josh, but the point is, when you have to go to, we agree, right? Because we've talked about this over the season. You've said it multiple times. When we go to Denver and we play defense in Denver, those teams run out of gas. It's hard to play Denver's defense. They seem to be good every year, regardless of who the best skill position player is, because you have to go to Denver and play.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%, dude. I don't think that that's a non-factor. I don't even think Kansas City is going to be the team to beat in the AFC next year. I mean, that's really where my biggest problem starts with that question. Especially if they find a way to land J.J. Watt. Buffalo's the team to beat, bro.
Yeah.
But Buffalo is the team to beat. Jared Allen is not going to slow down. He's only going to get better. Stephon Diggs is really showing you he is a top 3 receiver in this league.
He is.
Period, point blank. He's here to tell you. The offensive line is young. The defensive line is young. They have a year's worth of experience. They have some playoff football now. The team itself's obviously going to improve. But if they bring in a guy like J.J. Watt with 10 years of experience of quarterback and a defense and really being able to read what that offense is doing against them, that team is going to be fun. We talk about adding a game and a half wins. J.J. Watt's still a game breaker like that. We're talking about a 14-win Buffalo team for the next 3 or 4 years, as long as J.J. Watt stays healthy. I mean, as long
as Josh Allen doesn't start demanding contracts.
Yeah, and I don't think Josh Allen is going to be I don't see Josh Allen being a $50 million a year guy like Patrick Mahomes is. I think Josh Allen understands that 35 to 40 is the going market, and he'll probably take a deal if they compete legitimately and they get to a Super Bowl to represent the AFC. Josh Allen, I feel, is the type of dude like Tom Brady did for 10 years in New England, will funny around the money. You know what I'm saying? Just fudge some shit this year, pay me a different type of bonus that year, that type of shit, and keep that team together.
So let me ask you this. We talked about this initially when Russell Wilson started speaking to the media, and now it's actually becoming a little bit seemingly more real because apparently a third of the NFL has reached out about Russell Wilson. Is there any fucking shot that Seattle trades Russell Wilson at any point in the next, 6 months?
I'd like to say no, but crazier things have happened. I've seen way wilder shit. I mean, I'd really like to say that beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's no way Russell Wilson gets traded. I just don't think that happens. I believe that there's a chance that Russell Wilson can get traded. I just don't think it's likely. I wonder what happened. Hopefully nobody broke into his Carolina home. They're coming to steal that fish. What's up, Pop? What did you say up here? Buffalo's definitely going to be a contender. There's no doubt about that. Teams are getting better. Oh, look, he's still alive. No guns. Everything's okay. We're all safe.
So, Russ.
So I don't believe, to recap what I said as you walked away, I don't think it's likely because how do you trade Russell Wilson? But let me ask you a question. How much is too much to give up to get Russell Wilson?
So, Deshaun's going to go for 3+ and a player.
Got to be 3+ and a player.
We'd agree Russ is a tad better, right?
Oh, because no doubt.
He carries his team more than Deshaun does.
Bro, right now, Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer. Right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah,
Deshaun
right now.
Could be. Right now, Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer who's still in the prime.
Not first ballot right now, but yes, he'll get in.
I don't know if I agree with not first ballot.
Well, so when you have one Super Bowl, you've lost the second, and you don't put up gaudy because he hasn't put up gaudy numbers. So the formula is either I win a bunch of Super Bowls or I put up gaudy numbers my whole career. He's kind of balancing both of those, right? Because he won one, lost one, and then he hasn't really put up gaudy numbers year by year. It's not like he has top 3 numbers. We just know like his value exceeds what his statistics are because we watch the football games. So I wouldn't think that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I would have to say, yeah, he would make it at some point in that voting.
I feel like if you ask 10 people, 9 would say Russell Wilson's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's only 30.
But if you ask you, Donovan McNabb's a Hall of Famer. So everybody's got their own level of dumb.
There's some great highlights today I watched, by the way. Just popped
up.
Did
you go put your number 5 jersey on and play the number 5 will always love you?
I got a 5 tattooed right on my nipple afterwards, actually.
I bet you did. Number 5 will always love you.
Perfect pain. So aside from that, we'll see what happens with the quarterback carousel. Devonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle. It's going to be kind of interesting because every year when we watch the draft, usually 1 through 3 or 4 typically goes the way we think. There's very rarely we get like the Mitch Trubisky thing where the Daniel Jones, I think, was like 7 or 8. He wasn't supposed to be till like the end of the first round or second.
Or the fucking Johnny Manziel pick. There's some
that was 15 years ago at this point. So like typically like the first 3, 4, 5 picks, they go about what we think they're going to go like. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see just how people view and rank Micah Parsons. I think that's like the one guy that can go either at 4 or at 13.
Well, Micah Parsons and Patrick Surtain, right? I mean, these are 2 guys that were
Surtain for the most part hasn't been projected very high. Now
because he's a corner.
I wouldn't be upset if they took him at 6.
No, but like this is Marshawn Lattimore, right? Marshawn Lattimore was drafted 4 or 5, I think, by New Orleans. Great corner, but he's not fucking Jalen Ramsey, so you took him too high. That's how they look at it.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this draft. There's just so many teams at the top with so many different needs, and you already know you only really know what Jacksonville's taking. Like, you don't know
so many ways that Howie can fuck this up. So many ways. Now I got to ask you a question. We're going to end talking about the Sixers.
Okay.
So right now, all right, but I'm going to set you up first. Wilt Chamberlain. If Wilt Chamberlain played in today's league, what's his closest comparison? You can't go Jokic, right? Because Jokic can pass and shoot. Can't go Embiid.
Actually, to be honest with you, and it's not there's not a bunch of comparisons. It's more Giannis.
Oh no, see, I wouldn't have gone Giannis. I like that comparison. Giannis is too much of a primary ball handler.
Yeah, he's more of a ball handler than Wilt was.
DeAndre Jordan. That's what Wilt Chamberlain. Absolutely,
not even close. That's not even close.
Listen. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a league of guys that look like you and me. Wilt Chamberlain's best competition in his prime was Bill Russell, who was 6'9" and weighed 60 pounds less than him.
The difference just
bro, hold up. Wait a minute. Let me get it all out. Wilt Chamberlain couldn't shoot free throws. Wilt Chamberlain could not score most layups. He was a hook and a dunk shot guy. He was dominant again. But when you're a foot taller than 90% of the league and 5 inches taller than the next tallest guy, you're going to dominate. That's what's going to happen. Now, this is why I ask you the question. But I want to take you back 10 years, right? No Joel Embiid, no Ben Simmons yet. Let's go back 10 years. Who was the greatest Sixer if you had to pick between Wilt or Allen Iverson? Would you have said Wilt because of his dominance, or would you have said Allen Iverson because of his skill set?
Wilt,
right?
Yeah.
If you put Joel Embiid in the era of basketball that Wilt Chamberlain played, he does everything Wilt did and more.
Yeah, well, here's the
question. If Joel Embiid has a prime, now we're projecting 5 years of this basketball and 3 or 4 of productive, a normal career, right? Will Joel Embiid be the greatest Sixer of all time?
It's an if.
Right, I'm asking you to walk out on that ledge with me and assume that you keep yourself for a real prime, a 5-year prime, and let's say it's sort of
my if, I would say yes. And the reason I'll say yes is because my if is not dependent on how Joel Embiid plays, because I think I know what I'm getting with Joel Embiid. My if is dependent on who are the surrounding players for the next 5 years that are around Joel Embiid, because the number 2 guy on the team, if he is a top 10 player, they will win a championship or 2. But if it doesn't happen with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, the way this team is structured, then I would still put him up there, but he has to win some championships, and that's not dependent on how he's playing, because right now he looks like the best player in the world. And I don't think
he is, right? Right now he is the best player in the world.
I'm not sure if I think you could have made that argument though for Wilt 1 or 2 years of his career. He lost to Russell a couple times, but you still could have made the argument Wilt was the best player in the world. But if Joel can be the best player in the world and win some championships, it's a different discussion.
I gotta shoot my pop down real quick, because it's not his fault, Aaron. He's an old guy. He's fucking generations. It has taken me the last 6 years constantly berating him about LeBron James for him to admit that Michael wasn't as good. So he sticks with things. So I'm going to start with this.
It's a ridiculous argument now.
Because Wilt was first is dumb for a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason is because Wilt wasn't first. Number one, if you rank the best centers in basketball history, Wilt is probably 6 or 7 if you really pay attention to skill set. Like Nikola Jokic.
I disagree with that, but there's 1 or 2 better than him.
Nikola Jokic is a better center than Wilt Chamberlain was. Joel Embiid is a better center than Wilt Chamberlain was. Hakeem Olajuwon was a better center than Wilt Chamberlain was. Shaquille O'Neal was a better center than Wilt Chamberlain was. The only guy I can give you that's close to Wilt is Dwight Howard in his Magic prime, and I'll give it to you. The other argument that you just popped up with is the same as Babe and Hank. First and foremost, Babe Ruth has never actually been agreed upon as the greatest baseball player of all time. Nobody who watches baseball says that. Nobody. I know that we don't do baseball a ton, Ron, pitchers and catchers.
Babe is up there.
Babe is up there. Babe is a top 10 player of all time. Hank Aaron is the greatest slugger in MLB history. Barry Bonds has the asterisk of the steroids, but the motherfuckers that were throwing him the ball were juicing with the same shit. So as far as I'm concerned, he's still up there. Now, the other problem I have with this argument, we like to romanticize past, right? Me and you talked about this with Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is a top 5 shooting guard of all time. There's no argument. Kobe Bryant is not better than Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant is not a top 5 all time. He's just not there. He's 6 or 7, but he's not there. When he died tragically in the plane crash, rest in peace, him, his daughter, and all those that suffered and died. That sucks. When it happened, everybody elevated, right? We make up these stories about Wilt Chamberlain like he did crazy things for his size. What he did was his size. We like to romanticize this idea that this had never happened before. Dr. J was not a trend-setting, generational, transcendent player. He was just really fucking good and really athletic in a time where Larry Bird ran the league. If I said to you, today's Larry Bird is Kevin Love, would you disagree?
Yes.
No, come on, Skip.
Yes.
Max Kellerman.
You're comparing Larry Bird and Kevin Love.
Max Kellerman, you believe that Larry Bird can play in this league?
Luka's a much better comparison to Larry Bird. And
you believe that Larry Bird can play in this league?
Yes.
First of all, let's make up a world where Larry Bird is playing the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals. Who's he defending?
Larry Bird was cold, bro.
Who is Larry Bird defending? Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
No way. Kevin Durant. No shot. He can't.
Nobody's defending Kevin Durant.
Not only can he not keep up with them, not only can he not keep up with them, he can't switch.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to compare errors because of the coaching and the fitness levels of training that you have and all that. I get all that. Like, we can't just go ahead and compare errors. But the comparisons we make are a little bit outlandish. Let's also remember that Wilt Chamberlain in his time could have ran Olympic track if he wanted to because he was actually that fast. So his athleticism exceeds a lot of people's athleticism that we talk about in today's NBA. So when you compare him to Nikola Jokic, I'm not giving you that. But when you compare him to everybody else, we can start making some arguments. But athleticism obviously is different right now than it was 30 years ago, but Larry Bird, because of his skill set, because of his IQ, could play in today's NBA.
Make your final points, dog. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Sixers, I've been saying it all year. I know Justin's not going to agree with me. The Nets are going to win the East. Milwaukee's going to climb in the East. The Sixers will end up finishing second, third, at the very worst fourth, but they are a much better matchup than what their record's going to indicate during the season. So I am excited to see the Sixers in the playoffs because, as me and Justin discussed previous, it doesn't matter much what the Sixers do in the regular season. At the end of the day, it really matters at this point with a new coach, new system, new players, what the Sixers do in the playoffs. So don't take too much into the regular season, but I really don't think they're going to be at top of the Eastern Conference. As far as the NFL goes, the Eagles need to get their head out of their ass a little bit and stop narrowing in on position and narrow in on who is the best player available, who are the scouts telling me to take, and how can I start building this team to be competitive next year when I have a ton of cap space. I don't care if it's a quarterback. I don't care if it's a wide receiver. If this person and the scouts are telling you this guy is the best guy on the board and he's available at 6, you take him at 6 or you trade back. Period.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I didn't hear any of the rest of your final points. I'm going to throw mine out right quick. Sixers got to do better. Daryl Morey, this motherfucker, this motherfucker to my left, I don't know what he is on your screen, but to me, he's my left, showed me you were the Messiah, Daryl. Be my savior. I need you to finish what you started, and I have faith in you. I believe like Tinkerbell. I believe. Doc Rivers, never not impressive. I mean, the shit that he's pulled off with this COVID and stuff on a new team, I'm so impressed, dude. I think Sam Cassell is an unbelievable asset to have with a young team on that bench.
Their defensive coach is the Pacers coach, old Pacers coach, by the way, and he's doing a phenomenal job as well.
Yeah, and they really do. They're an impressive team. I'm excited about them. I could not have said what you said any better. The Eagles, in every facet, have to pull their head out of their ass. They're fucking retarded at this point. I don't know what else to think. Jeff Lurie has got to fire Howie Roseman. Jeff, if he's got a tape of you doing some weird shit, we here at Big Facts don't kink shame in this house. We won't make it bad. Just let him go,
If you like anal beads, you like anal beads, Jeff.
And listen, if he's sucking toes or getting pissed on by Russian hookers like Mango Mussolini, whatever you like, man, it's okay, Jeff. We're all weird at home in our own private areas. I just need them to do better. And that's it, man. Just do better. So I'm excited to keep watching these Sixers. I'm really excited to get into baseball stuff. We got to put some stuff together this week to talk about on Sunday on the baseball front.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on these quarterbacks, bro, over the next couple of weeks. Sam Darnold's going to have a new home. Maybe Desean Watson. It's going to be crazy. So I'm sure we're going to have plenty of news to report on. And follow us on Twitter, all those other places. All my shit is Justin at Big Facts. And then Ron, you can plug your shit in our pages.
Big Facts, all streaming platforms. We'll see you guys on Sunday.
Peace.